Okay, first off, I'd like to start by saying thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.
Sure,
And
no problem.
first off, start like by asking where you grew up and went to school.
Grew up at Brooklyn, New York. Went to grammar school at St. Thomas Aquinas in Flatlands. Graduated from Brooklyn Prep in 1965, and then went to LIU for my bachelor's, Brooklyn College for my master's, back to LIU for a second master's, and Southern Connecticut State for a certificate of administration.
That's impressive. What were your parents' jobs?
My father was chief financial officer for Somerset Importers, and that's Johnny Walker, Black, and all the Tanqueray Gin. It was the liquor industry. And my mother was she was a buyer for B. Altman's. She was a clothing buyer for B. Altman's. She was in the retail industry.
That's interesting. Were either of those union jobs?
Neither one of them. For them, it was a union job. It was strictly, survive if you can.
Mm. Were unions like sporadic back then? Were they popular?
Well, unions were popular back then, especially in the New York City area, because you had the police department, fire department. If I didn't go into education, I was going to go into the fire department. And people would say, go into the fire department because you have security. Security was there. You worked 25 years in a job, and then you got a pension. You went out at 3/4 pay. And, what happened was my parents said, well, why are we spending all this money on your education if you're going to go into the fire department or the police department? But if you did it
Yeah, I've heard
today,
that before.
all these people that are going into these civil servant jobs are all college graduates.
What was your first job?
My first job was in the field of teaching. Well, my first job was New York City lifeguard
And that was
back in
union?
1965, and that's when we 1964 it was. The summer of '64, I was in high school,
Okay.
and I was getting paid. I was getting paid $56 a week.
And they still had the same union back then that they do
Well,
now?
the union was DC 37, but it started to get. It was really not a union job because we were separate. We were with the Department of Parks,
Mhm.
and then about 8 years later, when Peter Stein was working at Coney Island as a chief lifeguard, he was the one that really developed a union for the New York City lifeguards. And he did a great job doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
he got us job security, pay raises, and we separated our union from the rest of the Parks Department.
Okay. And did you have what was your other union jobs after that?
Union jobs, I was in the New York City Board of Education. I was a teacher. My first teaching job was at Lehman High School in the Bronx. It's a brand new high school that just opened up, and I was there for a year, and then I lost my job at the end of the year because of budget cuts. And it was during the Koch administration, so the last one in is the first one to go. And then I started to panic because I needed to get into a job. I mean, I wasn't married at the time, but I ended up getting a job at the Dalton School in Manhattan. It was a private school, and I stayed with the private school system all my life. I never went back into public school.
Yeah, I know some people are forced into unions sometimes, but you
They
chose to
Well,
become
on the
one?
beach, we have a union. You participate in that same union because every 2 weeks you give a certain amount of money to the union. My dues is about $40 every pay period. Yours might be $30 every pay period. And it goes right to the union. It goes to, your health benefits. It tries to give you better working conditions. And for the beach, the union has been good.
And now, working here, are you in a union here?
No, there's no union here at Fairfield
So
Prep or Fairfield University.
Currently, you're in DC 37.
DC 37 currently.
Okay. Now, this is a public union, right? Public union job?
It's really the private sector.
Oh, okay.
It's private sector. We have a negotiating body of faculty members here and administrators who negotiate. and you know, I've been here 33 years at Fairfield Prep in this job, so it's fine. If I was in the public school, I'd probably get a little bit more money, but it would be a different environment.
And the union DC 37, that's public?
Yeah, no, that's public. That's
Yeah.
DC 37 is one of the largest unions in the country.
And how long have you been in DC 37?
DC 37, about 25 years. I currently have a pension. I'm putting into a pension with the New York City Lifeguards.
Now, were you inspired to take that job? Anyone with other people in your family take that job?
Well, I did it because I needed a job in the summertime, Sean, and it was easy. It's fit into my lifestyle. I was off in the summer because of school, and I like being outside, and I like the beach and the atmosphere and the excitement, and it just stayed in, and I've been doing it ever since.
Were there any difficulties you faced in this job? Like a bad boss?
At the beach?
Yes.
I mean, you got to be in shape. Basically, that's it. And you deal with crowds. You deal with large population, a very diversified population in the Rockaways.
Most people were okay with their salary?
Most people were good with their salaries, and when we got into the union, we started to look at where salaries were going, and well, we did well financially. The union's DC 37 did well for us, but now our process right now is difficult now because of the economy, and our contract is up. Our contract has been up for since July 4th, so we don't have a contract, and we will negotiate a new contract, but it's going to be something that's going to be very realistic because of the economy.
So the union it would help you overcome the issues you faced. Now, when you were in the union, did you feel like a sense of security having the union?
Yes, because there were no lifeguards ever let go. If there were some disciplinary problems, the union was there to defend you. If there were problems on the beach, the union was there to defend you. When I had the drowning at 146th Street 2 years ago, the union was right there and said, listen, you know, this was an unfortunate situation, but the person died from internal causes instead of drowning on the beach.
That brings me to my next question. What was your most memorable part of being in the union or on the job?
Probably being on the job. I like the job. The job is exciting to me, and it just fits into my lifestyle. Being with the unions, it's to see how well it gets complicated at times with the union. They try to set standards, work standards, to make sure that everybody's happy, all their employees are happy. They try to secure people in their jobs so they keep their jobs. And working with Peter Stein and Richie Scher, I mean, that's an experience because they do run the unions, and they're also in charge of lifeguards. But they'll listen to the higher echelons of the New York City lifeguards with regards to things that go on.
Also, what are some of the greater benefits you get from DC 37?
Health benefits. DC 37 health benefits are good. I could go in there full time and do it. The pension system, since I've been in it so long, most kids only go in it for a short period of time, but if you're a teacher and you have the summers off, it's worth it to get into the pension system. It's just, you know, something that you should do.
During your time in the union, have you seen like anything like riots, or people going against the union?
No, we've had. Well, I'll tell you, we did. We had a strike on the beach, and this was about 1971, about 1975. There was a strike, and they wanted better working conditions, more money, different hiring practices, and it didn't work. It flopped. It was a disgruntled lifeguard brought this up, and he wanted lifeguards to strike, and it was stupid to do because they had a bargaining issue. They could have went through a different channel to talk about their issues. They wanted to strike, and then those lifeguards were let go. They lost their jobs.
And that nowadays you don't really see that as much.
Well, you don't see that as much because today, with the economy and concessions, you hear that a great deal with unions. They want unions to concede more. They want to give backs, to buy into their pensions. Well, to give back in their health benefits. Health benefits are probably the biggest problem right now, because they're skyrocketing out of control, and more companies want their employees to give more money. We just see the whole issue right now with American Airlines filing bankruptcy, and they need to make concessions in either so they can reorganize. And they've been making concessions, and that's the pilots and the groundwork and the baggage and handlers. But there's the unions. Unions have to think about everybody else, and they also have to think about the road they want to travel. If you look at General Motors and the auto industry, the unions is what killed them and sent them into Chapter 11, and then they all reorganized and came back, and they're a little bit stronger, but it's a smaller company. General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, they're more profitable today.
Over the years, has your opinion of the union changed? Is it better? Is it worse? Is it the same?
No, it's probably the same. Unions can hurt workers, and unions can help workers. It depends on, you can only go to the well so many times when it comes to finances.
Overall, do you feel the union has positively or negatively affected your life?
Positively, because I'm in a small union. It's not, if I was in a fire department or a police union, which is a larger union, positively.
And lastly, in your own words, what is a union to you?
A union is a conglomerate of people, working class people, who come to bring their ideas to a bargaining table and try to improve the working conditions of whatever class of people that they're dealing with.
Okay, thank you very much again for your time. I appreciate it.
Anytime.